this is Marie Clarko from the Cookie Jar Enterprises located in Olmsted Falls. I'm a home-based business licensed by the state of Ohio so that I can sell my products and ship my products all over the United States. I also offer free local delivery throughout the year. I started the company about 7 years ago after many years of watching my grandmother and my mother make thousands of cookies over the holidays in order to give them away to family and friends who visited during that time. I sell and create Italian family recipes that are a collection over many, many years from my grandmother, my mother, many families and friends. So they can consist of cookies, apple cakes, quick breads, and so forth. All of my products are located, and many pictures of the products are on the website, thecookiejarenterprise.com. So you are welcome to visit it. Give me a call at 440-625-6081 if you have any questions. Today I thought I would help you and show you how to assemble and create an Italian rainbow cookie. The Italian rainbow cookie is actually 3 thin layers of cake that are assembled using raspberry and apricot preserves. And then once they set up in the refrigerator, they're coated with chocolate. And when you cut them into bars, they resemble more of a cookie type texture or candy type texture. The cookie can show up many times as the holiday tray because it is red, white, and green over the Christmas holidays. However, it makes a beautiful addition to any tray for any occasion throughout the year. So you start with 3 thin layers of cake. A green layer, which I have here in the pan already, a white layer so the batter is left uncolored, and then the red layer, which is the batter tinted with about 8 drops of red food coloring, and the green batter tinted with about 8 drops of green food coloring mixed together. They are thin layers. They are made in an 8x8 pan. I like to use the parchment paper in the pan so that I can simply lift it out and be able to use the cake from there. So once you have your 3 cakes baked and they cool for a little bit, you can assemble them on a tray, on a dish, on a platter, anything that you want to use, but it has to be able to be put into the refrigerator because we are going to frost the top and the bottom of the cake. And to do that, we have to let it set up in the refrigerator for about an hour. So I will get to that steps in just a few minutes. You start with the green layer of cake. I'm going to use about a half tablespoon to about a whole tablespoon of the apricot preserves. You don't want this piled up on the cake. You simply want a very thin layer spread evenly along the square of the cake. So you may need to add a little bit more depending on the thickness of your preserve. Now, typically it's made with the apricot preserves being on the green layer and then the raspberry preserves being on top of the white layer. If you don't like these flavors, you are welcome to use any type of preserve that you like. I like preserves over jam. Sometimes the jams can be a little thin and they may run a little bit on your cake. So using your best judgment, just see if you can get a thin layer of the preserves on the green layer of the cake. So it typically looks like about this. Next, you want to take your white layer, which doesn't have any coloring on it at all, put it over your green layer, press down lightly. Now, if your layers are a little uneven, maybe the sides didn't come out as well, don't worry about it because at the end of this process, we are going to trim the edges of the cake. So everything will be perfectly fine. On the white layer typically is then a raspberry preserve. Again, I'll start with about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. Does not have to be a lot of the preserve. You just want it to be able to spread evenly and nicely around your layer. So we'll go ahead and do that. I bring it almost pretty close to the edge. I don't want it to actually have to seep out too much on the sides when I cut it. So I pretty much cover most of it, trying to stay away from getting to my edge a little too close there. So there's your raspberry layer. The last layer, and my layer just cracked a little bit, that's fine, is the red layer. We'll just push it back together again, press down on it again. So you can see that you have 3 beautiful little layers of the cookie. So just press down on that. This last layer then is the layer that becomes frosted with chocolate. And these are just chocolate chips melted with a tablespoon of vegetable oil. The vegetable oil gives it a little bit better consistency and a little bit of shine to the frosting. So don't pour it on, but all I need you to do is just pour, slightly dip out a little bit of chocolate. You're not frosting the sides of this cake at all. All you're going to do is lightly frost the top layer of the cake. And I like to make sure that it comes over the side of the top of it just a little bit. I don't like to see any of the red showing. So I like to make sure I have at least enough frosting on top of the cake so that my red isn't showing through. Again, if you spill some down on the side, it's the sides of the cake that's going to get cut out later. So it doesn't matter. Now when you're working with chocolate chips to melt them, a lot of people use a double boiler, and that's fine. You can also just very easily melt them in the microwave. The things you have to remember about the chocolate chips going in the microwave is when you first put the chips and the oil in the bowl in the microwave, put it on 30 seconds only. Take it out, stir it with a knife, put it in for 10-second intervals at that time. Chocolate will burn. So you want to do 10 seconds, take it out, stir it, another 10 if needed, take it out, stir it. You want the chips just to be completely melted and spreadable like this so you don't see any pieces of the chocolate chip. If you're using a double boiler, which is a pan over a pan of water, to melt the chocolate, you just have to be extremely careful that when the water in the bottom has boiled, it does not come up and come into the chocolate. Chocolate seizes with water. You won't be able to recover it. You'll have to throw the whole thing out. So you just need to make sure on a double boiler the water's never coming up and splashing onto that top. It's very, very easy to use it on the microwave. It's really how I melt all my chocolate chips. Just melt it in the microwave, it's just a lot easier. And like I said, the oil gives it a little bit of a shine for you. Okay. Once the top of the cake, your top of the cake is frosted, I just go ahead and keep the chocolate at room temperature. You might have to put it in the microwave for a few seconds, again to stir it if it dries out a lot. But this is what the cake looks like. You take your pan now, you refrigerate it for an hour or until you know that that chocolate is very hard. So there's no indentation. If you press into it, you know the chocolate is set. Because what's going to happen after this is that you're going to take another platter or a dish, whatever you want the final product to be on before you cut it. You're going to flip this over and then you're going to frost what is now the bottom of the cake. You're going to frost it again with chocolate. And then you're going to let it sit in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Overnight is great because you want to make sure that that topping is rock hot solid so that you can cut the cake into the bars the next morning or later that day. So you're going to need at least 3-4 hours after you turn it over for it to become very solid and make sure that it's going to work out well for you. When I do flip it over and frost it, I do like to occasionally take the tines of a fork and just make a little pretty swirl design on it. You don't have to, you can leave it plain as well. But that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to refrigerate this cake for an hour. I will turn it over when I know it's set. I will put the rest of the frosting on it. And then tomorrow morning, I will just take a serrated knife and just very thinly cut along the edges of your cake. You can throw those pieces away or eat them. And then you're going to cut the cakes into bars. They're typically about an inch, inch and a half pieces long, but it's very simple to do. The cake is very easy to make. Like I said, it's in an 8x8 pan, and I would suggest using parchment paper to get it out. But this is what the finished product looks like. You can see it's a very pretty 3-layer bar. It's got the chocolate on the bottom and the chocolate on the top. These freeze very well, so if you're making them for an occasion, you want to make them ahead of time. I would definitely cut them in the bars before you freeze them, but just lay them with wax paper, put them in an airtight container, make sure that each layer is well covered, but they will freeze up well, and then just take them out for a short period of time before you actually serve them. I will have these at the farmer's market in the next couple of weeks, so I look forward to meeting you. To stop by my tent at the Cam's Corner Farmer Market every Sunday from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Thank you.